Hello, everybody. I'm Dan. Nice to see all of you. Thank you for stopping by. This is Wiki Cartoons, my animation company. Did you ever think about what makes cartoons? What makes Did you ever know that drawings can move? I didn't. When I was a kid, I read a book. I found out drawings could move, and right away I wanted to try it. And that led me down a whole adventure that took me through animation studios, building my own company, being in movie credits, teaching courses, developing programs. But what really hasn't changed for me is just my love of drawing. Would you like to see how we draw in animation? Come along. I'm just going to use my favorite tools, which are my pencil and sitting at my drawing table. But you can see underneath my pad, I actually have one of these old-fashioned animation discs. See? I've got some animation paper taped on there because I'm just using it as a drawing table right now. But this whole desk, I actually built it. It was just a drafting table. I cut a big hole in it with a saw so I could put my disc in it. I put a little backlight behind there. But that's for another day. Today I just want to show you how we approach drawing when we animate. So let's sharpen our pencil. You notice too, I have one of these red ones. Sometimes we like doing an underdrawing first so that when we do the black line, we can actually do something that looks more finished. So I'll keep my red pencil sharp too. But the secret to animation drawing that's different from other approaches to drawing is that we do what we call constructive drawing. Constructive drawing is literally as it sounds. You're building things out of shapes, right? But in this case, I'm working with simple concepts. So I have the idea of a circle, the idea of a square. These are simple shapes, a triangle. But the type of drawing I used to do when I was at Disney, things had to have volume and they had to be able to turn. So they had to look different than that. So instead of the circle, I would do a ball. And you would show the ball shape by adding some of these surface lines. And then all of a sudden, even though it's on a flat sheet of paper, it starts to look round. Instead of a square, we can make it into a cube, which is three-dimensional. It's something that you could turn in space. So I even imagine the other side of the cube, the corner that I can't see. A triangle might be either like a cone shape, which is three-dimensional, or it could even be a pyramid. A pyramid with 4 sides, or a pyramid with 3 sides. But you can see the beginning is to be able to draw just simple shapes. A lot of times you don't get ideas for something. Like if you wanted to make a new character, I don't really start with, oh, I wanted to create a bird, so I have to look at birds a lot. I mean, yeah, sometimes as an animator, you do study birds. But instead, if I want it to look unique to me, I want it to look like a bird that's only my bird, instead I'll think of a simple shape. So I'll probably say, well, these shapes are too simple. They don't look like special enough. So maybe I'll change that rectangle and make it a little odd. Like maybe I'll make the top bigger and the bottom a little smaller. And I'll say, well, if I had another bird and it was a different shape, maybe it would be kind of like a gumdrop. So I'll draw sort of a rounded cylinder, like a gumdrop shape. So you see how these shapes are getting more unique. They're a little special. This one's narrower at the bottom, wider at the top. This is sort of rounded, but it's also sort of a triangle. Oh, I might have another shape. Let's say it's like almost a coin shape. It's sort of a cylinder, but it looks like that, right? So if I say, okay, well, we created 3 very different shapes, but if I told you those are all birds sitting outside my window, you'd say you're crazy. But I'm not crazy because I'll show you. You add a few details and all of a sudden you'll have a bird out of any of these shapes. So a lot of times in animation, we lay in a line that we call an eye line. So I'm going to put a line there where I'm going to let the eyes rest on that line. So I need my eyes, of course, and I need my beak. The beak is another shape, right? Maybe it's a triangle. So on this shape, I decided to put my eye line here and my triangle here. On this shape, I might decide to put my eye line very high up here and make the eyes a different shape, and maybe even make the beak a different shape, like that. And on this one, maybe I'll put the beak right in the middle, but I'll make it a very different shaped beak. And maybe the eyes wider and farther apart. Well, now they're starting to look a little bird-like. They've all got eyes and beaks, but I want to add some wings. Well, wings are just kind of a little boop, boop, like that. And all of a sudden it looks like a wing. Maybe the other one's on the other side. Same here. Maybe make it a little longer of a boop, boop, like that. And this one maybe is folded farther back like that. And so far back, you can't even see the other wing. So I'll just leave it off. And then I think, well, maybe I need a little feather coming off the head. So maybe on this person, this little bird, I'll go boop, boop, put a little feather there. On this one, maybe I'll have a feather sort of right in the middle, like that. Maybe on this one, I'll put the feather flipping the other way, like that. So now they all got little feathers. Now they need little feet so they can hang on to the telephone line or the tree branch or whatever you like. So in this angle, you can't see much of the feet, maybe just a little bit here. Maybe a couple of toes sticking out here because his body's in the way. This one, maybe I got longer toes. Maybe they're sticking out like that. And then this one, maybe they're almost sticking out like a penguin off on the side. Well, now I got everything. Oh, wait, not everything. I forgot the tail. Tails are really interesting with birds. They determine a lot of how they fly and where they live, whether it's in the forest or by the ocean. But I don't have to worry about that. I just have to worry about changing the tail. So each bird has its own tail. Maybe on this bird, I want like a long tail that's hanging down below the branch that they're sitting on. Put a couple of little leaves in there to make that branch more happy. Sometimes when things are hard to see, I'll do a little shading like that so I can tell where the branch is. And I might want to make him smile a bit, so I'll curl up the corner of the mouth and maybe even put a little bit of an eyebrow and shade in those eyes so that I can see them a bit better. Maybe even put a little shape for the cheek. Over here, maybe he's more of a serious sort of bird, so I might give him more of a serious expression, and he might only have a mouth at the very tip of his beak, and his tail might not even be visible. It's so far behind him, but we might stick out a couple of feathers in the back like it's coming off of his tail. And maybe he's sitting on a larger branch, more like a trunk. Maybe the tree trunk is here. And we'll throw in an extra branch for this one here. Let's get them all on the same tree. Trees are wonderful. They can bend any way you want. You can keep adding more and more branches. So everyone's got a branch to sit on, and they're all on the same happy tree. Wow, look at that. We're creating a forest of birds. Could have just been as easily to do, could have just done a power line instead. So, as you can see, we started off with 3 simple shapes. We had a rectangle that was a little wider at the top, smaller at the bottom. We had a gumdrop shape, which is kind of like a triangle or a cone. And we had a little disc shape. And if you're ever trying to come up with ideas for shapes that you could use for your character, just look at the world around you. I might see a bottle over there. It might have one shape like this for a cap. Well, that's got a height and a width to it, and that's a special set of proportions, and that could become its own bird also. So see over the next week when you look around you, what would you turn into your favorite bird from the rainforest? Would they have big feet? Would they have a long tail? You can decide. And later we'll talk about how you can make them look like they're flying when they open their wings and take off. And that's the beauty of animation. Not only can we create the bird, but later we can make it fly and walk and do all kinds of fun stuff. Well, thank you for spending your time with me. That was a lot of fun. I really love drawing, and I'm glad you were able to watch and follow along, and I hope you try some of these things on your own. See you next time.